It took me 3 years to walk onto a top D1 cross-country and track program before helping win a national championship. This achievement has become a core part of my identity as an athlete, and this is my story. Then after that, I'll spit some advice for some of the nut jobs that want to try this for themselves. It all began on a nice cold morning in Minnesota. My mother was rushed to the hospital. Out came a crying little... I got into running in junior high. I tried some other team sports and it just wasn't working out. So I figured I could succeed as a lonely athlete by myself. Something I couldn't do on those team sports. Frankly, my times were average and I didn't really score any points for my junior high team until literally the last track meet in my entire junior high running career. I was so bad, in fact, that my cross-country coach told my mom that I wouldn't even need spikes. Frankly, she was right. I found myself in the back third of the cross-country team. So after a year of mediocre running, I decided I wanted to get good at this sport. So I spent the next year running year-round, lifting, getting specific training plans and setting specific goals. And by the time I had finished high school, I had become the top of my team and I had set the goal to run for my dream school, BYU, Brigham's Young University. I figured I could just walk on the team. I mean, how hard could it be? Well, I showed up for tryouts as a true freshman in college. Yes, indeed, there are tryouts. In fact, in cross-country in college, it can be quite difficult to make the team, okay? It's not the same, everybody can just show up willy-nilly like it is in high school. It's actually rather difficult, trust me. The head coach, Coach Eystone, had us doing mile repeats on the track with the team, 3 of them. It was hot, it was miserable, and after the workout was finished, he read off 6 names of people that could stick around for the tryout period for a couple of weeks. I was not one of them, but believing that I should be, I approached the coach, did my best to convince him I belonged there. He let me stay before he just cut me 2 weeks later. I was devastated. I mean, really, this was crushing. I thought I was a good possibility for a recruit. Next thing I knew, I had no team, no coach, and my running career was at a screeching halt. And for the next year, finding the discipline to train without a coach and without a team just wasn't easy. I spent that year training with a couple of buddies, awkwardly avoiding the team as we weren't allowed to be with them at practice per NCAA rules. Then, after returning home from a mission trip in France 2 years later, I showed up for tryouts again. Coach Eystone had us doing mile repeats on the track. It was hot, it was miserable, and at the end of it, he read 1 name of someone who could stick around for the tryout period. It wasn't me. But believing it should be me, I went up to him and convinced him that I should be allowed to stick around. He let me stick around for that tryout period before he just cut me 2 weeks later. It's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. I've done this before. I could do it again. I could do hard things. Frankly, I was not in a good place. I mean, honestly, I was doing great. I had been off running for 2 years and I came back running quite well. I felt disposable as an athlete and angry again that I had failed so quickly once again. I talked with my dad and other friends extensively about transferring somewhere else so I could continue my running career. Ultimately, I determined to stay, give it another shot for the next year to walk onto this team. Because ultimately, I wanted to run for BYU, a top D1 program, not a different one. And I also knew that I could only become my best athlete if I was at a program like this one. Well, by the time spring came, I was in good shape. My dad flew me out to California. I jumped in my very first 5K on the track. I had graduated from the fantastic 8 laps, 2-mile race from high school to the 12-lap race of college. Lucky me. I do get dizzy. I've only puked once. Blood puke. I ran well. I did. 14:29 in the 5K. Huge 40-second PR. I was on top of the world. I marched into coach's office and I said, "Look what I ran. I want a spot on the team." And he said, "Yeah, 14:29 is okay. I'd love to give you a spot, but we don't have anything. Sorry." It wasn't until I spent an entire summer training with the team and then beating out half of the guys on the squad at the home cross-country meet that I was finally granted the glorious spot into D1 athletics. Please, Jeez. But I wasn't done. The goal is not just to make the team, it's to have a career in college athletics. To make a long story short, I worked my way up to the top squad and was there as a senior when we won our very first national championship. 2019 was that glorious year. We got the trophy. How to walk on to your team. If you want my advice, don't do it. Just get recruited out of high school. The easiest thing you can do is just be good in high school and get recruited. You do not want to do this the way that I did it. It will save you a lot of pain and grief and tears. But if you really want to walk onto your team, I suggest 3 things. Number 1, elevate your mindset. If your sole goal is to make the team, you will probably have one of 2 outcomes. You'll either never make the team, or you'll get cut right after you make the team. When I had marched into Coach Eyestone's office, I told him I wanted to be an All-American. I told him that before I was ever on the team. And frankly, I never achieved that goal. The closest I got was 87th at Cross Country Nationals, which is still 47 spots away from that goal. But by shooting for that goal, making the team was just a step along the way, and I was able to prove to the coach that I had something to contribute once he gave me that spot. Number 2, imitate what the team is doing. If you plan to compete collegiately, you need to be ready to compete as a collegiate athlete. You might be tempted to train or to perform like how you did in high school, but that's just not gonna cut it. College, you have to take the next step. So learn what they do and start doing it now. If you want to get as good as the guys on the team or better, you're gonna need to elevate yourself to what their level of training is. And number 3, sacrifice for the dream. Trying to become an elite athlete when you don't have the resources of being on an NCAA team is extremely challenging. It means that you're gonna have to skip some fun nights to get the sleep you need for your training. It means you might not get an A in that class and you have to take a B+. But you have to learn how to sacrifice some of those temporary wants you have now to accomplish some bigger goal you have in the future. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. Be the guy that's consistent, that shows up every day, and that works harder than everyone else. From my experience, I fail a lot. And it's really not about the failure that determines who you are as a person or an athlete. What matters is how you respond to that failure. It is easy to respond well to your successes, but it's difficult to respond well and learn from the failures in life. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I love running so much, and now I am trying to master the marathon. Check out some of my other content to see how that's going. And if you're not already, please take a moment and subscribe. I will be posting many more exciting videos and stories to come. Thanks so much for watching.